Hey guys, how you doing? This is Benjamin with Benjamin's Exotics, and today, a few different things we're going to be talking about today, but the main thing we're going to be focusing on is ball python humidity. This is probably, besides feeding and getting your ball python to have a good feeding response, is one of the most asked about or, just talked about topics that do need to be discussed and cleared up, so I thought I'd do a quick video on this. So, first of all, we'll address really quickly what is humidity. Well, humidity, in very short terms, is the amount of moisture in the air. That's probably the exact definition of it, but it's basically how much moisture is actually in, the air of your pythons or any animal's enclosure. So, why would you need higher humidity? What are, problems you can have if you didn't have high enough humidity? So, a few different things. With too low humidity, as well as with too high of humidity, you can have respiratory problems, meaning that the snake can almost get a cold because there's not enough moisture running through their system and things like that besides the water they're drinking. You can have problems with shedding if the humidity is also, I don't hear many people say this, but if the humidity is too high, you'll also have problems with shedding, as well as with the humidity being too low. So either one of those can really, not be good for your snake because then you have to give it a bath to get, the shed off and all kinds of stuff, which isn't too great. But the problem that people usually have with their snakes is that the humidity is not high enough. So really quickly, we'll go into a few different ways you can raise the humidity in your ball python's enclosure. So this is the demonstration of the ball python enclosure. Probably should have paper towels because it's not really good to spread out newspaper, but first way, easiest way to add humidity to your ball python's enclosure is just to spray it. Don't ever actually do it on newspaper because newspaper, normally the ink will leak from the page and get on your snake, and just newspaper doesn't really hold humidity too good. If it's blank newspaper, then that's fine, but not normal like this. So just spray the cage. That's the easiest thing, whether you're using a lamp or a heat pad, and we'll talk about those two in a second. The humidity is going to rise up into the cage for your snake to breathe in and to help it shed. That's the first main obvious thing. Number two is a different bedding. If we're talking about a reptile's tank, not a tub, a tank, you're basically never going to want to use, there's a few exceptions, but you're basically never going to want to use paper towel or newspaper because these don't hold humidity very well. Paper towels hold humidity better than newspaper, and they're okay at holding humidity, but in the long term, it's just you spray it in there and it's gone. Two of the best beddings to increase humidity, or just great beddings all around for your ball python, are number one, Eco Earth. You can get it in a brick or in a bag. I would advise getting it in a brick. You can save yourself some money for a little bit of extra work getting it all out, but it's not really work. You just open it and put it in some warm water. But this guy right here is real cool. It's basically just dirt, so you can spray that down, and this actually does wonders. It's probably actually a little bit better than the bedding I'm going to talk about next. And then the other option that I use the most is cypress mulch. Very economical. You can't really get it compacted, but you can get it for pretty, inexpensively online, and basically all pet stores carry it. But this does have a mite problem sometimes, so watch out for that. You got to watch where you get it because you don't want to have a whole bedding change where you're changing out your snake's cages, and the next thing you know, you have mites. So you don't want to do that. So just changing the bedding up, or just changing the bedding forever for the whole snake's life can really help its respiratory infections, or it can help prevent respiratory infections, I should say, and it can just help the snake be all around happier, easier shedding, and stuff like that. So number two is to help raise the humidity, is just to change out the bedding. Number three is a bigger water bowl. So if you're looking at my setup cage right here, just basic demonstration cage I'll be using, you have your normal sized water bowl, could actually be a little bit smaller than that, and then this. But if you have a 10-gallon and you want to go a little bit bigger, or you want to get something that'll help the humidity a little bit more, do something like this. Just go out to the dollar store, grab a container, fill that thing with water, and when it gets heated up a little bit, much more humidity will come out of that bowl versus the smaller one. Number three is heating, the bowl, or sorry, number four. But what I mean by this is either putting the heat pad directly under the bowl, or if you're using a heat lamp, put it over the bowl. This can have some bad consequences, such as all the basics. Your water bowl starts to get, when you add heat to water, it normally helps promote bacteria. So that's normally not a good idea, but it is an option, and I have done it before. But if you do that, you have to watch the quality of your water. You don't want your snake drinking moldy water, of course. And then I'm not going to renumber the options anymore, but I'll just tell you. Using these little wood hides right here that I have in this demonstration tank, these can work. Okay, they're okay. But really, when you're looking at both of these sides, if any humidity builds up in here from the bedding, from being heated underneath or on top, it's just going to leak out one of the sides. It's okay for holding humidity, but the real good ones are the ones that are like plastic. They don't leak out any humidity, and they're all around. There's no back to them that the snake can get out. The snake goes in one way and comes out, the same exact little hole, like in the front, but there's no back. You know what I'm talking about? The plastic ones that are basically covering the snake all around. When humidity rises inside of that hide, it's going to get stuck at the top, fall back down, and then rise again. You know what I mean? The moisture build up on the top and the little water droplets, and it'll just come back down. So changing your hide can really impact the way that your snake will shed and just overall its happiness. Another thing with the hide, you can always have a moist hide. I like sphagnum moss. I also like just the Eco-Earth. With leopard geckos, I normally will I'll always use a humid hide, but with your ball pythons, they're harder to come across, and if you're using a light, you can't really use these plastic ones, but getting a humid hide where you can put something in it like the Eco-Earth or sphagnum moss is great. That can, work really good too. Or, hey, if you're using the wood hides, take some sphagnum moss and just fill the back half of the hide with that sphagnum moss. It'll create humidity, and instead of going out the back, it'll go more forward and it'll stay in there. So, sphagnum moss and, getting a humid hide is really also going to help your snake in terms of humidity. If you're using a screen lid, that's a solid lid. There's a few things that are good about these guys. Keeps humidity in better. Thing I don't like is it basically never happens, but if the snake goes up to the light bulb or the top of the fixture and he sits on it for a really long time, it can burn the snake. I've only ever had that happen once, and it was basically kind of my fault because the snake was probably in a cage that it didn't like, and it gave me lots of signs that it was not liking the cage, tried to escape by pushing on the light, and that happened. I've actually had snakes unscrew light bulbs before, which isn't great either, but if you're using a screen, as I was saying, just go ahead and you can take, you can't really see on this guy, but you know how normally you have your light on one side and the whole other side of the screen? Take a towel, like just your average, normal towel that you dry yourself off with after you take a shower. Put the towel on top of there and spray it down with your water bottle, or just gets it wet, so when that generates humidity, it'll fall down into the cage, and also when the humidity tries to rise, it'll have a much harder time getting through that towel. So that'll hold humidity better in the cage as well. Because I know screen cages do work pretty good. They're not great for holding humidity, but for keeping ventilation, and ventilation is key with ball pythons especially, they're really good at keeping things ventilated, but in terms of keeping humidity, they're not as good. So you might have to supplement them a little bit with a towel on half the side. And then last thing is heat pads versus lights. You will see if you're heating a ball python tank. I hope you're not heating a tub with a light, but basically for ball python tanks, whenever you're using a heat pad, because you're heating it from the bottom and the humidity is more or less rising, rather than a light, which is just heating down and also evaporating some of this, just using a heat pad, it makes the humidity boost, crazy. In this cage, you can't really see, but there's a little bit of humidity, just a little bit on the side, and I haven't really sprayed this tank down too much. There's just a little bit of humidity built up on the side. Not very much. If this tank was heated with a heat pad, I can guarantee you that if I put one little spray in this thing would explode with humidity. It'd be all going down the sides right here, and, different things like that. So, those are just a few little quick tips. I know humidity is a pretty big issue for a lot of people. It's something that gets talked about a decent amount, but I thought I could throw in a few quick tips for you guys. So, real quick overview again. Spraying down the cage. You can get a different bedding, a bigger bowl. You can put your heat pad or light over the bowl. Get a hide that covers the whole thing, not like those little log ones. Get one of those animal plastic hides or something. Just a hide that covers the whole around the snake, except for a little hole so we can get in and out. So when that humidity goes into the hide, it stays in the hide. It doesn't escape as easily. Cover the screen with a moist towel if you're using a screen on a tank. Try sphagnum moss in the cage. That works really good. I just talked about the heat pad versus the light. Maybe try using a heat pad. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Just a few things. And I've told you guys before, I will be getting in some new animals over the next month or so. It might be 2 months, but I've got one actually coming in tomorrow on Thursday. So I'll show you guys an unboxing video of that. It's coming from California. I won't release any more details on that guy. But there's a few different animals I'm going to be getting, a few different species. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Stay tuned for tomorrow's video on the unboxing of the new animal. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.